Find the center and the radius of the circle whose equation is x plus 3 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals to 4. Remember that your standard form of an equation is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals to r squared. You have center, hk, and radius, r. Okay? Now, so my center for this problem is your h and your k, and your radius is your r. Okay? So, you have to think about what was plugged in for h in order for you to get plus 3, because your formula comes with the minus sign. So we had to have plugged in, I'm going to come down here, it must have been x minus negative 3 squared in order for it to become positive 3. Recall that I said if it's in positive 3 in the formula, when it comes out as its opposite, negative 3. And this is why it does, because it's x minus negative 3, because minus a negative becomes the plus. Now, that is the h. What is the k? What k would I have had to plug in order to get minus 1? Well, it had to have been positive 1. I would have plugged in y minus k is 1 in order to get y minus 1 squared. Now, your formula is r squared, and so our equation gave us r squared is 4. So we must set r squared equals to 4. Take the square root of both sides. So r equals to, normally we get plus or minus 2, but a radius can only be positive. So your radius is 2. So remember that if it's positive 3 in the equation, it comes out as negative 3. If it's negative 1 in the equation, it was really positive 1 when it was plugged in. And then your radius is actually the square root of this, because if r squared is 4, the square root of 4 is 2, and that is your radius. So your center is negative 3, 1, and your radius is 2. So let's graph this again and practice. I will graph my center first. Okay, I have a center of negative 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, up 1. So there's my center, negative 3, 1. With a radius of 2, that I need to go out 2 units in all directions, to the right 2, up 2, to the left 2, and then down 2. And then I will create my circle. So this is graphing of our circle. Now we can talk about domain and range. Your domain is your x values, your range is your y values. Okay? So your domain, what x's were used, starting at negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. This point, x is negative 5, so this would be from negative 5 to negative 1 is your domain, negative 5 to negative 1. Your range, what y's have been used? Well, I'm up here at 1, 2, 3. 3 being the largest y used, all the way down to negative 1 on the y is the smallest y that's being used. So your range would be from negative 5 to negative 1. Your range would be from positive 3 down to negative 1. Okay? All right, let's continue on. Let's talk about the general form of the equation of a circle is x squared plus y squared plus dx plus ey plus f equals to 0, where d, e, and f are real numbers. Now, we can convert the general form of an equation of a circle to standard form. We just got through working a problem with standard form, X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. The center being hk and the radius being r. So we're going to be going from this general form down to the standard form. We do so by completing the square on x and y. So let's look at a problem here. Write in standard form x squared plus y squared plus 4x minus 6y minus 23 equals to 0. Now, on this problem, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it over here. This is our general form. This is the form that we were given. The problem is in general form. It's in this form here. The x squared plus y squared plus dx plus ey plus f. So that's the form that it's in. Now we're wanting to go to standard form. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add 23 to both sides. Okay? So if you add 23 to both sides, you end up with x squared. Now what I'm going to do also is I'm going to put my two x's together. X squared plus 4x with a blank. Plus, let's put my y's together. Y squared minus 6y with a blank equals to 23. All right? So notice that I'm working toward being able to complete the square. I put the x's together with a blank, put the y's together with a blank, and my constant over on the right-hand side. Think back to around test number 1 where we learned to complete the square. To complete the square, you go to the coefficient in front of x. It is 4. You take half of it. What's 4 divided by 2? It's 2. Then you square it. You remember when we completed the square? When you complete the square, you are forming a perfect square trinomial that will factor into two binomials that are identical. So you do it by taking half of 4 is 2. You take 2 and square it, you get 4. So when you add 4 on the left side, you must also add 4 on the right side. Okay? So let's fill in the blank here. Looking at our coefficient of y is negative 6. So I'll take half of negative 6. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. I will take negative 3 and square it. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. So I will add 9 to both sides. Okay? Now, what I have formed is perfect square trinomials. All right? So what I'm going to do is I need to factor this trinomial here. If I factor it, I factor it into x plus 2 and x plus 2. Factors of 4 that will add together to give you 4 is 2 and 2. And actually, we just need to go ahead and write it x plus 2 quantity squared because we're trying to put it in the form of the x minus h squared. And now that's what I've got. Now take the trinomial here with the y's. Again, if you need to factor it, y squared factors into y and y. This plus sign tells me signs are going to be the same. This one tells me they're both going to be negative. What's your factors of 9? That will add together to give you 6. Isn't that 3 and 3? Now, also if you recall, you use what you got when you took half. What was half of 6? 3. So that's what you use to factor. And a perfect square trinomial will always factor into two binomials that are identical. All right, so we write it x minus 3 squared equals 2. 23 plus 4 is 27, and 27 plus 9 gives me 36. So now I actually have the standard form of the equation of this circle. Okay? So from this form, I can find my center. I could find my radius. All right, from this standard form, my center would be, if it's positive 2 in the equation, it was really negative 2 to begin with. If it's negative 3 in the equation, it was really positive 3 to begin with. This is your h and your k. Now your radius, think about it. This is the formula. That's r squared equals to 36. So to go from something squared to something not, take the square root, and we only get the positive. So your radius is 6. So I could graph this line because I have the center in the, I could graph this circle because I have the center and the radius. But actually the answer to this problem is the standard form of the circle was x plus 2 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 36.